lifelong Samsung user, switches to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I'm going to hate this. Let's go. Last week, when Apple opened up their pre-orders, I did the unthinkable. I sat there at my desk. Okay, here goes nothing. And I pre-ordered an iPhone 17 Pro Max. I don't in the slightest. It wasn't a smooth process either. Like, why does it feel like you're joining some exclusive club? You're just ordering a phone. Why am I waiting now? Why am I on this page? Just take me to the order page. God. But eventually, I did get in and I got it done and scheduled my pickup for Friday. I chose the blue because I knew everyone was going to get orange and I hate doing what everyone else does. It's probably why I hated having to order this. On Friday, I went to the Apple store, my local one at Robina, and I went and lined up for my scheduled appointment, lining up for a pre-order pickup. I don't understand. There is a line at 10 o'clock. Like, what is all of this? And like, why do you need a line to buy a phone? Like, I've got a scheduled appointment. This is silly. I had my Fold 7 in hand to show the order and then collected it and away I went. Oh no. I won't bore you with the full unboxing. There's thousands of those videos out here already, but I do want to show you my initial first raw reaction because I've never owned an iPhone, never used one. So this is the first time I've ever opened one and picked one up that is mine. In this bag is the best phone of 2025. Oh, got him. It's the S25 Ultra. But seriously, I have to do this now. Here goes. Oh, my table already feels like it doesn't like this. It's already some scratches on the box, which is apparently what happens with this color too. So I guess they're just getting me ready for the scratches that will happen. Well, we'll say I like the color. That was pretty satisfying. Okay, hardware impressions. It's heavy. It's very heavy. Whoa, compared to the Ultra, that is wild. Okay, that comparison video is coming, so just relax. The aluminium unibody is nice, but then this cutout, I know why they've done it. They needed to do heat dissipation. That's another thing altogether. But I can see the two-tone finish there. It's quite interesting. I've tried to meld it, but it's very, very obvious that that's glass and that's aluminium, and it's all kind of one piece. I get it. From a display point of view, let's check this anti-reflectivity, shall we? Oh, it's not even close. It's not even close. Again, subscribe for the comparison. From an impressions point of view, it's obviously solidly built. It's an Apple-made hardware product. I'm not going to deny that. It's got a really nice sort of feeling about it. I don't mind that either. It's a smartphone, and Apple design nice looking phones, and there's no denying this is one of them. So I guess now it's just time to turn it on, and then I've got to start using it. So those impressions will be coming up. I had a day one software update, which I got into after I input my Wi-Fi and everything, and then that took a while.
A long time.
And then after trying and failing to use the Move to iOS app, because it showed me it was going to take about 2 hours and I just didn't have 2 hours to switch all that across, I then canceled it. Shouldn't have done that. So I had to go and start the whole process again because of that whole factory reset thing. And then that meant I had to go through set up Wi-Fi, set up Face ID, which was a first for me, rolling my face around like that. And then also having to log in to my Apple ID, which I do have because I have MLS Season Pass, and I needed all of that ready to go, and it signed me in and I was done. I'm not going to hold that setup impression against Apple. I'm sure if you're in the iPhone world for years, you've got generations of stuff that just automatically logs everything back in and you're good to go. Similar to the way it is on the Samsung side of things, with Smart Switch, it just literally replicates the old phone on the new. But because I wanted to start fresh and I wanted to really get myself in that Apple world from the beginning, yeah, it was a challenge. Not just a challenge, annoying. I eventually did get into the phone to get started.
And I'm bored.
That meant I had to go through and install all my apps and log into all my social media and get everything set up and organized. And the more I started to do that, the more I really realized how much I dislike iOS. Obviously, as a lifelong Samsung user, and especially with One UI in recent times, you get used and treated to little nice touches and interactions. I got the universal back button, which means that no matter what screen I'm on, I can just swipe back on either side of the screen. I don't have to use just one or it's app dependent. Any app, any side of the screen. Not here on iOS. It's really, really frustrating, especially when you're used to it. Quick panel and the notifications don't interact with each other. It is a left swipe for notifications and a right swipe for the control center, but you can't go between the two whilst you're in it. And you also just can't swipe down from the middle of the screen to bring the control panel down or the control center. It's search, and you can't change that. That's fixed. You can't make it go to the control center or notifications. Another small thing, actually, while I remember it now, that I don't really like, is the notifications is basically just bringing down the lock screen. And then you've got to swipe up home to go back and the animation kicks back in. Why? I haven't locked the phone. I've just checked notifications. So immediately I lost all the things that I'm used to and familiar with.
There's another thing that I've just found out is that with the notifications as well, or the control center, if you bring it down when you're in landscape orientation, it brings the notifications down in landscape. Cool. But if you then try and rotate the phone back to portrait, it won't rotate it with it. And it's stuck there until you swipe it away. It's so confusing. Posted about it on X, and then everyone telling me, oh, that's just how it's supposed to work. That's user error. Almost to the point of, you're holding it wrong. I'm like, what? So just One UI, I'm like, this never happened on One UI. And it doesn't. If you swipe down the notifications when you're in landscape, and then when the notification panel is down, switch back to portrait, it rotates back to portrait, as it should. And iOS, it doesn't. And that's apparently how it's meant to be. Wild.
But none of that makes sense that they don't have those things. This is a big phone. The 17 Pro Max, 6.9-inch screen, massive. iOS has absolutely no parameters to suit big screen phones. None at all. They haven't tweaked or made the software work. None of the interactions actually suits here. That extends out into how it looks too. The home apps icon grid is comically large. The app dock only supports up to 4 apps, so I can't actually add more in and take advantage of the space because it doesn't let you. And I just don't like how that control center and the notifications don't interact with each other, especially if my hand is in that one-handed state. Why can't I swipe between them? I know there is customizations out there for iOS, and I watched Sam Beckman's video about how to customize iOS with icon packs and wallpapers. The thing that I don't really like about the customization on iOS is it's all third party. I am a big fan of native solutions. I love One UI because of the native stuff it allows me to do with all of the customization. iOS is so limiting with all of that. I now get why it used to be called jailbreak your iPhone, like literal jailbreak, because it feels like you're breaking out of a 4x4 cell and then you get to customize once you're on the outside. But without that jailbreak, you're locked in. Really feel it. My initial impressions of the hardware were that it felt premium, it felt substantial, but over time, it's become a little bit more mixed. I do like the unibody design. The unibody frame that melts into the sort of rear back aluminium panel is nice. It's got a nice soft touch in the hand, in the grip. It's a nice little touch and it does feel nice. It's a good aesthetic, even if it is a little bit heavy, as I said. But as a design, it's a visual overload. I've got the back here that's got this glass cutout for where the wireless charging pad is, which is a different tone of finish to the blue on the aluminium. And when you look at it, you really do notice the different tone and you see the cutout. But that's not the only thing that's striking on the back here. You've got the 3 massive cameras that sit on this massive camera island, which again, all sort of lends itself to being a lot to look at on the back. Not that you look at the back of your phone a lot. I don't really buy into that whole, it needs to look amazing, but it also looks quite busy. That's my take on it. But then you add in on the side all of the buttons. It's like Apple just adding buttons and buttons, where Samsung are kind of making it more clean and minimal. On the side here on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, you've got the action button, the 2 volume buttons on one side, and then you flip it over and you've got the camera control button, which is in the worst possible position you could ever imagine, and then the power button, which again is also kind of confusing. I almost mix them up sometimes. Plus, I'll mention it again, it's heavy. When I pick this up after using my Fold 7 or the S25 Ultra, it's substantially weighted. I don't know if that's a good thing. I actually don't like how heavy it is, especially when you consider that Samsung haven't really sacrificed anything in terms of power to achieve a lighter weight design. Whereas here, they've made it bigger and thicker and you feel it. I don't understand though why it needs to be so heavy. Like I said, Samsung, with all of its componentry that it has, is 8.2 millimeters thin and 218 grams on the S25 Ultra. That still has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. That still has a 4 camera setup plus a laser autofocus module. And it's got an inbuilt S Pen plus a vapor chamber. All of that exists in there. This 4,800 and something milliamp hour battery, which, because I've got the SIM card model, not the eSIM model, it's smaller. Then you've got a vapor chamber in here, but they've had to build out the camera island to fit this telephoto camera, plus all the extra other components, and for a vapor chamber. They've had to make the phone thicker and heavier to accommodate that. And there's no S Pen, which obviously no one but Samsung has, so I can't really hold that against them. I will in my comparison though, because this isn't a comparison, but that's coming, so hit subscribe. The display is nice. I don't really care for the island, especially when watching content. I much prefer the less visual intrusion that the camera cutout on the S25 Ultra has, but it's nice. At least they've kind of hidden it away and they've added some software tweaks. I wouldn't say it's as useful as the Now bar or as the live stuff that Samsung have got, but it probably will be as I use it more because I haven't really dived too deeply into all of that just yet. The thing I'd really notice is the display feels a little flat. I don't know how to describe it. I've always kind of thought this about iPhone displays is they're like visually very flat. There's not a lot of vibrancy to it. And then trying to go into the display settings, what display settings? There's nothing in there that allows you to really tweak or customize your display experience, especially to the extent of Samsung. Another thing that's kind of neat to call out is it's not as anti-reflective as the S25 Ultra. Whilst they've added that layer to all their iPhones, I would argue it's not really that much of an improvement. And then when you put it side by side to the S25 Ultra, the anti-reflective layer on the Ultra is better. I mentioned earlier the camera control button. Yeah, it sucks. It adds absolutely nothing for me, other than I can recreate the double press to launch the camera in the same way I've got it on the S25 Ultra with the power button. I can recreate it. But other than that, I won't touch it. And in fact, I've already accidentally launched it 5 times since I've been holding it here. So that's also annoying. As far as the camera app goes, I feel a little bit limited. It's the same sort of story as I've already been sort of talking about. The settings is way away in the settings app. There's no shortcut to camera settings from the camera itself, which is not user-friendly in my opinion. Once you've turned the stuff on, like the grid lines and the level, and you've turned on all the toggles for Pro RAW or whatever it is, that's then goes into the camera app and you can sort of see it all there. But then if you want to turn any of it off, you have to go back to the settings. There's no way to go back to the camera app and then the settings through there. It's a bit of a journey. Again, it's all sort of simpler on Samsung because it's all sort of housed within its app as opposed to needing to go into the separate settings to do it. I've only had the camera for a limited amount of time, and I will be impressed, I would say, with what I've captured. I think a large part of it is Apple using the 24 megapixel as the native option instead of 12. I think that does give a bit of a sharper output, and they've done something with skin tones, especially for my kids, that I kind of like as well. But there is good detail, and not that the S25 Ultra hasn't got good detail. It's just you do notice that extra crispness thanks to 24 megapixel versus 12. I will do a camera comparison within my main comparison, so hold on for that. But there's one aspect of this camera that I actually love, and that's the selfie camera. This is something I think I really, really appreciate about the 17 Pro Max. This isn't really just an iPhone thing. I guess Apple just created this bit of hardware, but this front camera is like a square that can be sort of operated portrait or landscape, which means I can use it like this. Really nice to capture content for YouTube, but I think as well people might just enjoy it, just capturing stuff in general. So big fan of this. See how we go, whether it sort of solves my experience so far, but as far as this part of the camera goes, I like it. Oh, and would you look at that? A pause button. Ha! The camera options in terms of modes are limiting as well. There's some decent ones, like all the ones you'd expect are there, like cinematic video, super steady, or I think they call it action mode, and then you've got portrait photos. That's all existing and it works, but there's just no fun to it. Like there's no pro mode, there's no pro video, there's no expert raw. There's just no way of being able to tweak the photos apart from photographic styles that you've got options on the Samsung. Yeah. Especially single take. Man, the camera mode is the best. They have added one fun option, dual capture, but it is so rubbish compared to what Samsung's dual capture or dual video is that I just don't see why they've added it. Because ultimately it just films the selfie and one rear camera. That's it. Samsung, you get the option of recording from the selfie and any of the rear cameras, being able to save them as separate videos or two rear cameras as separate videos at the same time. That for me just gives you more flexibility as opposed to just, oh, here's my face and what's happening. You know, that was good 5 years ago, but it's moved on. You do have log, of course, and you've got ProRes, which is also here. Both things that I think I might take advantage of as I use this a bit more, but they do take up a lot of storage space, especially the ProRes log. So that's just something I've got to be careful of because I only got the 256 because this isn't a long-term thing. I'm still a Samsung user through and through. Hardware-wise, I don't feel limited at all. I actually think the hardware, at least from a flexibility point of view, is there in the same way that the S25 Ultra has got, in that you have the ultra-wide, the 1X, the 2X, that new 4X camera, and then the 8 times optical like zoom as well. And it is pretty good, especially in the same way that Samsung's is 5 and up to 10. It kind of matches and cancels each other out. I do think Samsung's 3X is, although weak as a camera, a good option to have because it does bridge that gap, especially between 1 and 5. But Apple's being 4 is all right. Something that I just noticed actually while testing the cameras and comparing was that the 4x camera has a terrible minimum focus distance. You try and do some sort of telemacro, won't let you. We'll switch to the main camera at the same focal distance, and you can see it switching in real time when you bring something in front of it. Yeah, I don't like that. Video-wise, I'll probably, again, do more testing, but initially, it's not been as the iPhone is better versus the Samsung as everyone makes it out to be. It does produce some nice video, but so does the S25 Ultra. Again, full comparison will sort of show more. From a performance standpoint, I think this is where, again, the whole "it just works" sort of statement I find to be a bit of a myth, at least so far. So iPhones just work, right? They just work. Okay. It's just working. It's just working. That sort of hiccup and bug at the start aside, scrolling on social media apps actually is slower. It feels like I've got to work harder to get further up the app or further down the feed compared to the Samsung, because on the S25 Ultra, it just whips through the feed nice and quickly, especially if I'm just doom scrolling. Here, it just sort of really slowly goes through. And even though I try a bit faster, it doesn't seem to change much. But obviously, from a performance standpoint, there's more to go. So I'll obviously have to do a little bit more and see how this can potentially hold up, especially when it comes to AI tasks. I wouldn't even bother with the cleanup function on here. It's rubbish compared to what you've got on Galaxy AI. I don't know. I feel like the whole iOS is just smooth. It's kind of been some sort of myth that's been sold to everyone from other people who haven't even really tried One UI. Because from about One UI 4 or 5 onwards, One UI has been as bit as smooth. And now with Good Lock and the Home Up animation tuning, you can customize it to your heart's content, with how you want the animations and the smoothness to be. Yep, there's nice touches all around here. The liquid glass is overrated. It's not sort of system-wide, and it's only in some areas that you see. The rest of the iOS platform just performs. Yeah, I can't say anything else other than it does work, but it also feels so boring. There is things that I've been enjoying. I do like the lock screen customization. I'm a big fan of how you can create this sort of depth effect. And I also like that the always on display and the lock screen are kind of in sync. If you're wondering how I got the cutout to sort of be similar to the S25 Ultra's always on display, I had to make the lock screen with the removed background and make the background black. And then that just became always on display. Whereas at least on the S25 Ultra, it does it for me with the always on display. It still is a highlight. I still like the effect. I like if you have a look at this, all right, it's unlocked. It's a nice effect. Yeah, I get it. It's visually nice to look at. But is it a reason to not try Samsung? No. Is it a reason to switch full time? Also no. Apple, I can see, have built a fairly polished experience here. It's just at the moment not one that I vibe with. And that's okay. I don't have to like this. I've been ingrained with Samsung's customization for years, but I am going to give this more of a chance. So make sure you hit subscribe because full comparison to S25 Ultra coming, plus a full review of this coming as well. The title may have seemed clickbait, but this is a true lifelong Samsung user switching over to the iPhone. Let's see how we go over the next few weeks. Hit subscribe. See you in the next one. You!